Hi, everybody. It's time to start. I really appreciate your taking time to join us this afternoon. We will make a recording of this, so you'll have the opportunity to share this with your colleagues. So just a couple of things as we get underway. Let me, first of all, get the PowerPoint up here. And I will also tell you that we're happy to share our research, share our PowerPoint, and share everything else that we do with all of you who are in the field of education. So just one moment. Here we go. So today our focus is on student discipline. And I will tell you that everywhere around the country that I've gone, it is amazing how our kids basically have failed to bounce back from COVID. Even the kids who were paying attention on classrooms have really had a big problem with discipline, and that's what we're going to talk about today. But I also want to tell you that before we even start, a note on this first slide, and we'll send these slides to all of you. Please take a note of my personal telephone number, which I'm going to turn off right now so nobody else interrupts us. But I really learn a lot from you. I learned so much when you're willing to say, Doug, this is a question a board member has, or a parent has, or even a student has. I want you to make sure that you can always talk to me about what your greatest questions are. I learn from that. It's never an imposition. We always want to be able to serve you. So please write down that phone number, 781-710-9633, and we'll do our very best to serve you. So let's get to work. Oops. So first, some free resources that we want to provide to you. At creativeleadership.net, we have videos, we have articles, we have tools. We're all there to serve you. And so you might have been in professional learning experiences where people were cranky about copying things. We are not that way. You can copy, you can reproduce, you can do whatever you want because we want to serve you and your schools. Don't sell them, okay? But everything else you want to do, you can do. We also offer free support for doctoral candidates. Go to finishthedissertation.org. I just this morning got a note from somebody on that website. Finishthedissertation.org. We will support every doctoral candidate around the world to help you cross that finish line. We started this because 69% of students in doctoral programs never finish. If we can help you or a colleague or a loved one who's really struggling with their dissertation, send them to finishthedissertation.org. We'll try to help you. And finally, make sure that you can also call me or our executive director, Lisa Almeida, for personal follow-up. We really believe in you. We want to support you and do whatever you need to make you to be successful. Now, some book recommendations. I know today is all about student discipline. The single best book I have ever written or read about student discipline is called Changeable. It's by Stuart Alblon. He is a Harvard Medical School professor who has written the single best book on student discipline. I really recommend this. It's easy. It's not academically tense, and please consider it. It basically, as I'll say later on today, is one of the best books out there. Stolen Focus by Hari. This is a great book, particularly when you're struggling with ADHD students. And what we have seen in the past decade is a dramatic increase in ADHD students. Stolen Focus explains to you why that happened, with way too much attention on screens and not enough attention on interpersonal communications. This brand new one just came out 2 weeks ago, Outsmarting Your Brain, by my friend Dan Willingham at the University of Virginia. It is great. It is one of the best things that we can have teachers and secondary students read. Outsmarting Your Brain. How can they regain focus and do better? And immodestly, I must add Fearless Schools, which I think is a pretty darn good book about how we can basically have psychological safety for all of our students. So now let us get to the issue of the day. One thing that's been in the week in the news this week is all about artificial intelligence and Chat GPT. I'm sure you've seen this, where Chat GPT and artificial intelligence is taking finals in graduate classes and passing them. So let's think about how you and I, as public school educators, can get on the front side of this. Number one, change from practicing it in class, at home, to practicing in class. If you want to really see who's doing the homework, don't let them do it at home, because the bottom line is kids are smart and they are doing practice with Chat GPT and artificial intelligence during the evening hours when you are not there. Unless you're willing to make house calls to 35 kids, you got to make sure that you're doing this. Secondly, make sure that we require oral defense. I'll bet a lot of you have already done this. Oral defense means I don't just hand in a paper, but I explain, claim, evidence, reasoning. That's what you want your students to do as well. Don't just settle for a paper alone. You work way too hard to accept falsified work. Next, make sure that we actually require the use of Chat GPT and AI. In other words, instead of resisting it, require it, but make them show how they can edit and revise and improve that. And my analysis here is that that will help them actually require that use of computer-generated learning, but show that they, your kids, are smarter than a computer. Have them revise and improve it. King says to write is human, to edit divine. Have them require the original draft and then show how they can get better and better and better. That'll be the best cognitive thing and the best ethical thing that you can ask your students to do. Now, let's look at the data. Here we are in 2023. If you're looking at this on video, this is being broadcast in March of 2023. There's 1.1 million students who were in school in 2019 who are not in school today. Colleagues, we are facing a generational conflict here, where there were so many kids who simply dropped out of school in 2019. We're going to be facing this for the next decades. And so I think we just need to be honest about it. There are 1 to 2, depending on whose research you want to read, 1 to 2 years of learning lost. And it's up to you and me to make up for that. Moreover, teachers are fearing a pervasive sense of loss, and they feel blamed for this. If you're an administrator, I want to ask you sincerely to not blame teachers. It wasn't their fault that COVID happened. It's up to all of us to try to make up this learning loss, and we need your permission to do that. So I've been talking long enough. What I want to do is to take a couple of minutes, and I'm just going to ask you to enter in the chat room. Use Howard Gardner's brilliant idea to say, I used to think, but now I think. What did you used to think about discipline and now you think is true? And enter your comments in the chat room. I'll see you back here in 3 minutes. About 2 more minutes, please. One more minute, please.
Doug, I'm ready when you are.
Okay, thank you. Just 30 more seconds. And back large group in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. What I'd like to request that you do is use the raise hand function that is in the bottom right of your chat room, and tell me what you used to think was true 5 years ago, 10 years ago, but now you know is not true. Who's willing to begin? So I'll go ahead and start, just so nobody feels bashful. Colleagues, I was raised on learning styles theory. My doctoral advisor, who I admired and worshipped, was a real disciple of learning styles theory. And then I learned that it just wasn't true. We used to think that kids were auditory or visual or, auditory, visual, or kinesthetic. And then we learned that wasn't true. And it was really hard for me to give up that because I so admired my professor. But as I looked at the evidence, I learned that I was wrong. So I want to ask you, the rest of you, what did you think was true before, and now you know it's wrong? That's a real sign of learning.
Doug, excuse me, participant said, used to think discipline was a solution, but not now. I think reteaching desired skills is more effective.
Colleagues, we need to make sure that Lisa does not have to talk so much, as you can tell. But thank you for that very thoughtful comment. And by the way, I just want to add to all the administrators on this call, this is a really important exercise to identify what people used to think was true and now is not true. It's not to embarrass anybody. It's just to help our students and our educators and our administrators know that as we learn more, we can actually talk about what's most important. Any other entries in the chat room? So let us proceed then. Here are things. I'm sorry, Lisa, were you about to say something?
Could you would you be comfortable unmuting and sharing yours? Yours is very good as well. Everyone who's added something makes very solid points.
Yes, please.
If they're not comfortable speaking, if you'd like me to read them for you, I could do that.
Would you please, Jessica? Thank you.
That would
All
be
right.
great.
So we have, I used to think discipline was about compliance. Now I know it is about engagement. And I used to think that student discipline in schools was primarily about punishment and enforcing rules, but now I think effective student discipline should be about teaching students how to manage their own behavior and make positive choices rather than just punishing them for breaking rules. This approach involves providing students with the necessary social emotional skills and support to help them regulate their own behavior and make good decisions.
Those are such thoughtful comments. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. And so let us proceed to look at the evidence. I looked literally today on the web about what's happening in terms of student discipline. Fights are up 21%. There's a dramatic improvement I shouldn't say improvement, in regression in potty training. First and second grade teachers are seeing things that they used to only see in pre-K classrooms. Teachers are burnt out. They're trying to control the classrooms, and they are not prepared to do that. That extends not only to elementary, but also to middle school classrooms as well. And there's a significant shortage of subs. So, it used to be that when we had a discipline problem, we would send somebody to the administrator's office, but the principal is not there because the principal is covering a different classroom. So there's, easy to blame others for this. But we've got a crisis, and we really need to address this crisis in similar fashion. So what about the fundamental issues of behavior that we have to address? First of all, I don't think that it's just about behavior. It's behavior, attendance, and learning. All those three things go together. Depending on whose research you want to believe, it's about 22 weeks to 36 weeks. Honestly, colleagues, I work in high poverty schools. I think it's more than 36 weeks. It's more than a year. And so we've got, 7th and 8th graders who cannot read, write, do math, add, subtract, multiply, and divide. It's not just 1 year, it is multiple years. And we also have to understand that there are multiple failures in science, social studies, every subject. So to the administrators on this call, I need to ask you candidly, if I may, that you got to consider to what extent is your schedule, your time allocation different today than it was in 2019? Because if you have the same schedule today as you had in 2019, you're assuming that learning loss didn't happen. And colleagues, I'm just telling you, it's real. And we have to give teachers the time that they need to get ahead of the game. And that means spending less time on some peripheral issues, more time on reading and on math, because if we don't, they are going to struggle. So let's talk about the impact of failure on students. First of all, there is this pervasive sense of hopelessness. If I'm ever lucky enough to be in one of your kids' schools, I'm not going to have lunch with you at one of those nice places. I'm going to have lunch with the kids, and I'll tell you what the kids are saying. They are what Roy Baumeister said, the "what the heck" effect, and he didn't exactly use those words. The "what the heck" effect is, gee, I'm already so far behind. There's nothing that I can do that'll make up for it. So I might as well either not show up or make attendance. And I've got to tell you, this is something that all of you are going to be dealing with. The "what the heck" effect means, well, think of it this way. What Baumeister said is, I need to lose some weight, but I have a little teaspoon of ice cream. Well, what the heck? I'll go ahead and eat the whole pint. I didn't show up for school today, so what the heck? I might as well not show up for the whole week. We got to really make sure that we address this creeping issue that is really hurting our kids. So here's what we have learned. We have to address the issue about behavior. And it's all about attendance and achievement, and everything else goes along with it. So number one, we got to make sure that when students feel free, to feel hopeless, they just stop showing up. They stop engaging, they stop attendance. And I'm going to give you some very positive ideas that you can take away from today, because our new teachers are not equipped to deal with this. I'll bet everybody on this call knows that you're going to have a lot of colleagues who are retiring or quitting. We've got a lot of new teachers coming in. We need you who are listening on this call to help them get better and better and better, because they did not learn that in undergraduate class. So what are the causes of student despair? Number one, toxic grading practices. The number one cause of student despair is the use of the average. A lot of you are already doing this. Parents see it, students see it. And here we are coming in. This is being broadcast in March of 2023. By April of 2023, they're going to say, there's no point. My goose is cooked. There's nothing that I can do. And they have predominant despair because they can't get back on the track. We can change that. We can change that by outlawing the average, which is one of the big things that I'm going to ask you to do. Moreover, we are stuck in this punishment and reward system. This punishment and reward system that has been around for 100 years. We have to fundamentally stop that and not allow that to continue. So, what are some solutions? Let me offer you some solutions for you to consider. First of all, let's focus on what really motivates kids. The number one motivation for our students is competence. I'm good at something. That is why they play video games. You know, they'll say, to my despair, they're not playing video games in my math class, in my algebra class, but they'll go home and focus for 4 hours on a video game. Why? Because they get better and better and better with each repetition. It's not because the video game is easy. And let me just add for some context here. The video game doesn't know what their socioeconomic status is. It doesn't know what color they are. It doesn't know, what their home environment is. It just gives them direct feedback. It's up to us to do the same thing. We want to provide video game type feedback so that they can get better and better and better. And colleagues, that does not happen in class. Moreover, we got to make sure that we change the whole idea of homework. Now, I know a lot of us assigned homework. I certainly did. But what we are seeing in the year 2023 is homework that is not getting done by our students, but is getting done by Google Homework Help, Khan Academy, older siblings, all kinds of other things. If you want to have really effective practice, stop doing homework and get the homework done during class. Secondly, we must absolutely ban the average. The average says that all that time and money we spent in the last 3 years on social and emotional learning that rewarded perseverance, that rewarded all those things that we thought were important, like resilience, we're saying that doesn't matter. Ban the average. Evaluate students on how they finish, not how they started. We have to make sure that we focus on resilience and perseverance. Those are the characteristics that will help our students on the job, that'll help them in the world of work. Resilience and perseverance are what is most important, not just doing fake homework. And we have to make sure also that we provide feedback for learning. And that is going to include the opportunity for summative evaluation, not just one test and you're done, but perseverance. Try it again and again and again. So here are some other solutions for student discipline. Make sure that we focus on attendance. You can't separate discipline from attendance from achievement. So here are some things that I've learned from educators and administrators and people around the world. Number one, wake-up calls. The dumbest thing that we do is have calls that go out to people at 2 o'clock in the afternoon by some robocall. No, wake them up at 6 o'clock in the morning, at 6:30 in the morning. Say, good morning, young lady. We are so happy that you're going to come to school today. It's time to be up. It's time to be on time. It's time to, and by the way, young lady, if you need help on transportation, here's the number to call. If you're not feeling well, here's the number to call. But we really want you in school. Now, I will tell you, this wake-up call is not very popular with kids or their parents. But the only way you get out of that is to have 30 days of perfect attendance. So please come to school today. We really want you here. We miss you. We need you. Please come to school. How about 1-minute meetings? I saw this in a great middle school in Connecticut, 850 kids. But if you're not there with your seat and a number at the time that you need to be there, then everybody, security guards, administrators, counselors, anybody not in front of a student was doing the 1-minute meeting, and they called them and they got them there. And another thing that I learned from you, and by the way, everything that I've learned is not a Doug Reeves idea. It's things that I've learned from you. Just give me a name and a need. Just tell me, hey, what's the need? Is it transportation? Is it food? Is it prior knowledge? Is it tutoring? Just give me a name and a need. And when we do that, then we can really help our students. And I would tell you that sometimes we miss these things that are really important, but too obvious, and we overcomplicate it. So some more solutions for student discipline. It's all about learning, not delivery. So administrators, I want to really ask you this. Please do not give a teacher a hard time about doing prior knowledge. In other words, I know that right now the theme around the country is just do grade level instructions. But if I'm doing grade level instruction and I'm supposed to be doing things like, let's take seventh grade math, scale and ratio, but I don't realize that my kids forgot, division and multiplication and all those sorts of things that they need to understand before they do scale and ratio, please allow me as a teacher to go back and do a mini lesson on division and multiplication before I go to scale and ratio. You got to live, you have to allow me to go back, find out, are they ready for today's lesson? In fact, many have, let me have mini lessons so that I can have immediate feedback and support from my students, and make sure that also that I avoid the automatic failures. I'll tell you, colleagues, what's happening around the United States is that there are policies at the board level, at the state level, that say, well, if you miss 10 days, you're going to have an automatic failure. If you miss so many assignments, you're going to have an automatic failure. Please don't do that. Avoid the automatic failure. Give students the information that they need and let them get better and better and better. So some more solutions for student discipline. Number one, let us define the ambiguity that office referrals have. All of us are concerned about discipline and misbehavior. I agree, you agree. However, if you ask people what's the number one cause of student discipline and sending kids to the office, it's disrespect. Colleagues, you could ask 10 different people what disrespect means, and you will get 10 different answers. What we have to do is to redefine exactly what is an office referral and what is something that I can handle in the classroom. And I got to tell you, we have to really have our classroom discipline identified. What's a classroom issue and what's an office referral? Way too many things are being sent to your office that are really not office matters. They are classroom matters. And I would encourage you to create a chart. What's in the office, what's in the classroom, and I know that there are non-discretionary things like weapons and guns and fights. I understand that, but there's a lot of non-discretionary things that you can handle yourself. So some more things for student discipline. Make sure that you support teachers by making sure that we are watching a master at work. In other words, what I mean is they're not being taught in college what classroom management and discipline is. So if administrators, you want to fix that, please do not send your new teachers to a 8-hour seminar on classroom management. Let them watch your very best teachers. Let them watch the teachers. We used to call them people who have ranger eyes in the back of their head, and they can immediately disrupt what might have been a discipline problem before it even starts. And that means administrators, you have to take over that classroom of that new teacher for 30 or 45 minutes, and then let them watch your very best people at work. And when they can do that, then you'll have the opportunity to get better and better and better. It'll save you time, and also it sends a message that you're still a master at your craft, that you're still willing to take over a classroom and show everybody in the building you've got your instructional chops. So a couple of more things. We want to make sure that we have 100% engagement. And by 100% engagement, I'll tell you who does this really well. Kindergarten and grade 1 teachers. You know what they do. They use equity sticks, and they'll say, okay, students, here's the challenge. And then they go round and round and round with equity sticks. And then they'll say, who's going to be next? And they're all, is she going to call on me? Is she going to call on me? It creates an excitement with 100% of our students. Colleagues, I'm asking you to do the same thing with the intermediate grades, with middle school, with high school. I know college professors who are starting to do this. College professors who learn from those first grade teachers and kindergarten teachers. Is she going to call on me? Is she going to call on me? It gets everybody engaged and has 100% engagement. And that's what I'm asking you to consider doing as well. The other thing that I would ask you to do is avoid the illusion of engagement. I wrote this article with my colleague, Dr. Neil Gupta, and we called it the engagement illusion. Here's what happens. They hear your footsteps coming down the hallway. Oh, the principal's coming. The instructional coach is coming. The AP is coming. And then they'll say, okay, Maria, I'm going to call on you because you got all the right answers. everybody else pretend like you're paying attention to me. Colleagues, that is not engagement. What I want you to do is to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to engage. And they also note from a psychological safety point of view, even if they don't have the right answer, they know it's okay. Hey, I don't know, Mr. Reeves. That's okay. You can phone a friend. You can answer a question with a question. You can give me a partial answer. But what you cannot do is check out of my class and just rely on reliable Maria, who's always got her hands in the air to do something else. So a couple of more things before I open this up to questions. We got to make sure that we go from theory to practice. And I want to make sure that we always turn to actual practice in the things that you and I focus on. For example, what are the things that you've heard a lot about from Jenny Donahue, from John Hattie, and from many other writers, is the value of efficacy. But let's really separate this out. Level one is I can't control it or I can't influence it. And colleagues, we spend way too much time on level one. Level two, I can't control it, but I can influence it. Those are things like attendance that I've seen get better and better and better. And level three, I can control and I influence it. Those are things that I really want to spend my time on. So I want to ask all of you as educators and as leaders, focus on level two and level three. Just focus on the things that I can really do well and that I can have influence and empowerment over. So the last thing I'll say is, and then I'm going to go to you, is a wonderful work by Liz Wiseman. Are you going to be a fixer or a multiplier? Because the fixer is one who always does everything herself. The multiplier is one who's willing to step back and let other people be multipliers. That's what I'm asking you to do. Let your colleagues multiply their work. Don't try to do it all yourself. So let me go back to our large group, and I want to have your questions and challenges. And by the way, colleagues, I should have said at the outset, challenges are always appropriate. It's always okay for you to say, Doug, I think you're wrong because. So please feel free to push back as well as to ask questions, or for that matter, to show your success stories. So the floor is yours. Please fire away. So when this happened to President Nixon once, he said, well, I'll ask myself a question. So let me give you a half a minute to pose a question. Yes, please.
Good afternoon, Dr. Reeves. If a principal has been removed or is out for a significant period of time, how does the assistant principal or the remaining staff reclaim or design the climate and culture to a culture of learning and attendance is improving in the school? Would it be just following those things that you've identified, or is there something addition that the administration could do?
But thank you so much, Ms. Andrews. And I would really want to learn more about the underlying causes of absences. So I know that chronic absenteeism is a huge issue in our country right now. So, Ms. Andrews, if you don't, I'm not trying to cross-examine you. I'm just really interested in your observation. Why do you think that absenteeism is up?
Some of those things that were in place to help encourage students to attend school have been removed. Sometimes it might be that the students are having to take care of younger siblings or
Yes.
taking care of. I'm working in urban districts, so the list could go. It varies.
I think that's so interesting. And let me just offer some positive affirmation. The positive affirmation is this: sometimes we attribute to students the failure to turn in homework or the failure to attend to bad character or bad behavior, when, as you so thoughtfully suggested, maybe the underlying reason is sibling care, family care, other responsibilities. And so I just want to really respect the fact that you attributed to them good motives instead of bad motives. And that suggests things that we ought to be asking about. Why is there an attendance problem? And it may be schedule and it may be sibling care. So I just want to really respect and appreciate what you said.
Thank you. May I, if no one else has another question, I'll ask one more.
Yes, ma'am. Please go ahead.
Okay. How would we, or what are some things that we should consider with the learning loss period, learning loss of instruction with students for at the middle school level? What would you recommend? What do you think is the best type of schedule? Meaning like a 90-minute schedule, 70-minute schedule, or should it be alternating A day, B day? Or should the students, so that we can build in time for enrichment at the middle school level? Or just maybe a 5-period day schedule? Trying to figure out what would be the best for them.
So yes, ma'am. Let me offer two ideas that I've seen around the country for you to consider. One is that we literally double the ELA block. Because if we send kids to high school, you're middle school as I understand it, if we send kids to high school who are not reading on grade level, they are going to fail, not just ELA, but English and math and science and social studies. They will fail pervasively around the curriculum. So I think that's one idea is just double that time. And I know what you're thinking, that's going to take away an elective, but I'll tell you what, kids who can't read are not going to be taking electives in the future anyway. So if we really want to promote electives, and I've seen this in districts, you're reminding me of a district in Indiana where they feared that if they doubled time on ELA, they would lose kids in music. They wound up going to the board in the middle of the year asking for more band instruments because as a result of spending more time on literacy, then they had more kids in the band. So it's not a either or proposition. If we spend more time on literacy, we will help those kids have the opportunity to take electives. And the same is true in college. The other thing, just politically, because I know you're probably on the spot on this, is a lot of parents will oppose, I don't want my kid to have remediation. I don't want my kid to have, some extra literacy that's what will make them look like they're dumb. Fine, don't do that. Give it to everybody. When 100% of students has ELA enrichment, then maybe that's helping them to read on grade level. Maybe that's going to help them read Shakespeare when they're in 7th grade. But when you have 100% of kids doing that, that takes the political pressure off of you and allows everybody to get better. Nobody has yet persuaded me that there's a big risk of overly literate middle school kids. So please take that note with it.
So if we do something similar to what you just identified, you wouldn't recommend building in a block like that for math as well? Just focus on reading starting out?
Well, so that's a really interesting idea. I'm a math teacher. In fact, my first job in education was a middle school math teacher. In my dreams, I would also hope that you would offer middle school math, but I also recognize that time is a zero-sum game. You probably can't do it all. So here's where I'm just speaking as a classroom teacher now. Here's where I need your leadership. And what I would ask you to consider for me as a math teacher is, Doug, you don't have to do 45 different standards. Let's identify the 12 that are most important, get really good at those 12, and then you can send kids to high school with confidence and success. And I would just suggest, Ms. Andrews, that what you can also do is get some high school math teachers to be on your side here, that they don't need to teach every single middle school standard. There's too darn many of them. But they do have to be really proficient in the things of number operations that will get them to high school with success.
Doug, I shared Ann McCarty Perez's contact information. And if you want to talk a little bit about Ann, the work she does, Charmaine, feel free to reach out to Ann. She will be happy to help you.
Thank you. One last question related to the reading, doubling the reading block, because I can hear, they would say, well, what do we use during that double block of reading? Double block of English. I mean, I know that they teach their regular content in one block, but say in that second block, what is,
I'll tell you what is missing in the vast majority of ELA classes is writing. And I honor the work of Dr. Stephen Graham, and I would like to think, and honestly, I contributed to this research as well, that when students write more, particularly nonfiction writing, write to describe, to persuade, to compare, to evaluate, when students write more, their reading comprehension improves dramatically. Writing is also linked to better improvement in social studies, in science, and in math. So that's what I would recommend you consider doing. We have seen, and by the way, I should just add a leadership issue, because I know that we have leaders on this call. If you want to really improve the morale of your teachers and improve leadership, think not just about test scores, think about how you can have writing where here's where they were in September, here's where they were in December, here's where they were in March and in May. You will see the quality of writing, the quantity of writing get better and better and better. The reason we are losing teachers out of our profession is that they think, oh, shoot, I don't know if I make a difference or not. If you could show them the quality and quantity of writing getting better month by month by month, you will avoid some of the hemorrhage of teachers that we're seeing right now. So that's my best recommendation. Make it not just about reading, make it about writing.
thank you.
Can you hear me? Jessica, could you read the one from Robert, please? Or Dana, could you read, please? Thank you.
Hi, no, I just had a quick question for you. I'm in a senior high school, and what we're facing is just student defiance. Like, regardless of what consequences provided to them, or even trying to work with them to develop a goal setting, it's nothing is clicking with them at all. So I was just wondering if you have any suggestions of alternative approaches to this, I guess I'd say.
Thank you for that very thoughtful question. I do hear that around the United States, and I think, I know it kind of feels like defiance, but what I would like to do is ask the students, you know, how can we say, okay, so I know you don't want to do this assignment. What's your choice? We know that some things surrounding choice do engage students. So I would want to see if I can generate that. At the same time, you know, I'm tough as nails on this stuff. I don't believe in coddling students. I don't believe in giving them, you know, whatever they want to do. So I would offer them some choice within a boundary. For example, if what I'm trying to do is get a response to text, a response to a play, a response to a poem or something, and you don't want to do what I'm asking you to do, then fine, but give me some alternative. And that could be PowerPoint, that could be a speech, that could be a Vimeo or something like that. What you can't do is just put your head in the desk and check out. So I think part of this is understanding what students' frustrations are, but also not giving up. Because if we do that, we're sending entirely the wrong messages. So I really want to support your teachers on making sure that they have some response. And there's some evidence out there that says a little bit of choice, not 36 things, but maybe 3 or 4 things, a little bit of choice has a better opportunity to reel them in and let them choose what they want to do. But I do want to go back to the conversation that I think is really important, is to ask that student, that defiant student that you're considering, you know, so where are you really good? Because every kid knows that they're good at something. And if they're good at video games, then the challenge to me as a teacher is, how can I make my class give you that kind of reinforcement that a video game offers? Because what they are all doing is getting good at something with immediate reinforcement. And I fear that in many, you said you're in a high school, too many high school classes, there's a large gap between the performance and the feedback. And what video games give them is immediate feedback. That's what I aspire to do as a teacher. We've got just a couple of minutes left. Who's next? Who wants to ask a question?
If somebody would read, if someone would read Robert's chat, I would appreciate it.
Which one do you want? I don't mind reading.
Robert,
Yeah, sure. So any effective alternatives to suspensions? More and more parents demanding suspensions for misbehavior and saying that we are soft on discipline if we don't suspend, but work on the issues causing the misbehavior. And this person's at lunch supervision, so they can't chime in via video.
No, I'll be happy to address that. Thank you very much for reading it up. And for so Lisa can't talk and I can't see, so we're but we're really dependent upon you. So thank you for that. Here's the problem. I want you to look at this through the eyes of a student. So before we get to suspensions, let me talk about office referrals. So I'm misbehaving in school. I don't like, the teacher, and I don't like what I'm studying. And the teacher says, go to the office. That is not a punishment. That is a reward. I'm thinking, praise God, I get to go to the office and get out of this class. And then I don't like the school. I don't like the principal. You're suspended. Great. Send me out of here. In other words, what we think is a punishment, students who are misbehaving think is a reward. So I think we're way better off to have consequences that matter. So I don't want anybody to leave this conversation thinking that I'm easy on kids or that I'm not supporting you with the need for consequences. What we do have to do, however, is have consequences that matter. For example, let me be really specific on some things that I've seen around the country. Consequences that matter might include, for example, restrictions on time and place. This is really good for adolescents. Adolescents value their freedom from pre-adolescence in 4th and 5th grade to adolescents in junior and senior years in school. When I control your time, that really matters. So let me illustrate with a woman that Lisa and I know very well. They had this, I know this will strike all of you as kind of simplistic, but it really worked. All the teachers agreed on a common assignment notebook, and they used old-timey ink stamps. And so if you're stamped, that means your work is done. You're cool. If you're not stamped, that means you got work to do. And they would walk down the hallway. I saw this with my own eyes. Walk down the hallway with their assignment notebooks open, because every teacher uses the same assignment. We're literally on the same page. Oh, you're stamped up. Hey, it's Pizza Tuesday. Great. Have a great day. You're missing a stamp in ELA. You're going to have lunch in room 102. Oh, you're missing a stamp in math. You're going to have lunch in room 103. Those kind of consequences that literally are focused on constrictions on time really make a difference. And I will tell you that the research, most recently from Johns Hopkins, is clear. After school doesn't work, summer school doesn't work. It's got to be during the school day. Similarly, I've seen other consequences that students really appreciate. For example, another district had catch-up Fridays. If you're not, between Monday and Thursday, I'll leave that between you and the teacher. You're not squared away. You got to go to catch-up Fridays and get work done. And, look, none of these are perfect, but what they all have in common is a dramatic reduction in failures, a dramatic improvements in behavior and attendance. So all I can say is don't think about things outside the school day. Think about things that are inside the school day. And let me give, was it Robert, an opportunity for a rejoinder if you think that I'm wrong about this, because I'd respect your point of view as well. Okay, is there another one in the chat room?
no.
Okay. Yeah, I will just add before we close, the invitation that we would offer to you is we're not saying that we've got all the answers, but we have seen a thing or two. So you have on the front of your handouts my personal cell phone number, which I've turned off conveniently now, so nobody else is going to interrupt us. But I want you to make sure that you can always call, you can always email, if you're going into a faculty meeting, to a professional learning community, even to a board meeting, and we can offer something that will support you, please consider us a resource that we can do to support you and do our very best. Anything else, Lisa, that we need to address?
Contact information, and we will follow up with deeper learning and about subgroups in this topic.
Sounds good. Gosh, I hope you feel better soon. My goodness. All right, everybody. Thanks so much. We'll be happy to also make this recording available and share it with your colleagues. We really believe that research is there to be shared. So you can always call us, always share this. We'll do our very best to extend our support to you. So thanks, everybody.